Hi folks, Gary here with another true story for you. This one is about the spirit realm where you've got a polar bear and a narwhal. Um, okay, most people don't know what a narwhal is, so let's just go with walrus. Might be a little easier to visualize that way. So we'll call this one the polar bear and the not narwhal. Anyhow, the polar bear and the narwhal were in the spirit realm, and the chief spirit was there talking with them, and he had to go and do something for a bit, and he said, "Is it okay if I leave you two alone?" And they looked at each other, and they just didn't understand, because although there was a predator and prey, they were in the spirit realm, and it's not exactly like they're predator and prey in the spirit realm. So Great Spirit walks away. And so the walrus, as soon as the spirit walks away, the chief spirit, he looks over to the polar bear and he says, "Look, I need a favor." And the polar bear says, "What do you need?" And he says, "I need you to put a scar on me." So now I've seen that in my next life that there's going to be a lady that I know and is supposed to be with me forever. My true soulmate, so to speak. And she's going to be there, and she's looking for a guy who has a scar. So I need a scar. But when I'm born into that world, I won't have a scar unless I've got one here. And the polar bear said, "I just can't do it. It's just not that easy to just reach out and change into that monster and swipe at you." But again, the walrus persisted. And so he finally talked the polar bear into doing it. And the polar bear changes into his polar bear form. He reaches out and he starts slicing at the back of the walrus as the walrus is trying to get away. And the polar bear felt awful because his claws just peeled the flesh away from that poor walrus. It was horrifying, and it made the polar bear sick. And the walrus just about passed out. As luck would have it, the chief spirit walks in and sees all of this going on. So, what do you do? Well, the polar bear kind of kept his mouth shut, and he figured he'd have to wait until the walrus came around to explain things anyway. Well, what happened is that the chief spirit put him in court to settle this. And he said, "The polar bear, you have got to be punished for what you did." And so he said, "The walrus is going to his life now, but when he comes back, we're going to have him in the courtroom explaining and showing everyone exactly what you did, and then we're going to punish you." So the walrus went into his life. He met the girl of his dreams. She saw the big scar, and it was a big scar. Okay, big scar. He met the girl of his dreams. They fell in love, got married, and they were there in the spirit realm together. As a matter of fact, they go to the courtroom together, and the walrus stands up and he says, "The polar bear is guilty. He did scar me, but I would like to be the one who gives him his next life and tells him what restrictions he has." And the polar bear says, "I'm guilty, and I will do that." Now, of course, the lawyers were going crazy at this point in time, because even in the spirit realm, they have lawyers. So it's not, is it true heaven, shall we say? Never mind. Anyhow, so they're talking with the lawyers, and the lawyers are saying, "No, you can't do it, can't do it." But the polar bear insists, "I will do what this fella says. We can sit down together," and the judge finally did sign off on it. And so they're going back in the quarters to finish off the paperwork after everything's been settled. Going back in one of the offices. And as soon as the walrus walks in, the polar bear's there with his lawyers, and the walrus walks in with his lawyers, the polar bear gets up, and they run to each other and they give each other a big hug. Now everybody in the room thinks that they're going to fight, so they're trying to stand between them. But when they see them give each other a hug, they just don't really understand. So the walrus explains, "Look, this is what happened, and this is why he did that." And he said it wasn't easy, and the look on his face, I knew it was bad because I saw the look on his face, and he was shocked at what he had done. But he said, "It all worked out great." And he pointed to his lady, he said, "This is why I did it, and I have absolutely no regrets." But he said, "I do have the ability to punish that polar bear." So he said to the polar bear, he said, "I've already picked out a life for you." And the polar bear said, "Well, what is it?" He said, well, you know, I went through everything that I went through so that I could get my true mate and soul mate and be happy forever. I think you should do the same. So the punishment that he dished out was a life similar to his own, where the polar bear could be as happy as the walrus, or the narwhal, shall we say. And that's another true story for you. Have a great one.